being a pain. Hey guys, what's up? Sarah Jane. Thank you for coming back to my YouTube channel. So today we are talking about...
Yesterday. The movie, not the actual day.
Right. So yesterday is basically about this guy who remembers the Beatles and everyone else doesn't for some reason. And he starts to play their songs and take them as his own. I thought this was a very different vibe. I know on the AMC website they have it as an artisan film right now. I think it was a little different compared to a lot of other movies that we've seen. It was more like, what would people do if the Beatles songs were trying to be promoted in the now?
Oh boy.
Yeah, not so good. Because they're so weird. Like, some of the lyrics and some of the stuff that they sing about is so out there. But it makes sense to them because...
they lived it.
They're an iconic timestamp in our history. So, for people to not know what they are now, like, all of a sudden nowadays, they're like, oh no, we should say hey dude instead of hey Jude, or we should do this, or we should do that. I'm like, heck no.
It's so weird. But I think the thing that always made me off about that film is that no matter what, the protagonist never looked like he was happy. It's because I get it. I think I understand, because he's literally stealing the fame that should have been them. And it's understandable that he's trying to bring them back in because, you know, their music is awesome. But at the same time, since no one remembers who they really are, it literally looked like it was eating him in the inside and everything.
It seemed like it was more of a burden to him to be the only one that knew who the real artist was. And as you'll watch this film, we're not going to do any big spoilers in this one. But as we were watching this film, there were some people following him, and you know that there are people kind of wanting to speak to him from the trailers. And it's not the Beatles, but it's a really interesting way of portraying this film. There were a couple of turns, a couple of twists. The music, of course, was pretty good because, you know, it's the Beatles.
But it also seemed to show, like, what would someone do in a scenario like that where they're the only ones that even know what that particular band is about. I already can tell that if no one knew who Queen was about and you're the only one that remembered it,
I would cry and lose. Most of the music we have is inspired by the Beatles. And then Queen was inspired by them. And people are inspired by Queen every day. So for the Beatles to not exist, like, a lot of things don't exist. A little bit of a spoiler. The guy keeps trying to order Coke and no one knows what Coke is.
Coca-Cola has disappeared.
It's just Pepsi, which honestly I'd be okay with.
At first I thought to myself, like, okay, did Coke and the Beatles had something in common as to why? Because why would it just randomly disappear? And that's what my first thought was.
Well, why would the Beatles randomly disappear? I think they were just trying to make a theme out of it.
I believe so.
So, Oasis also disappeared, which they're a pretty darn good band too. At least some of their songs. Some are a little... but, you know, that's another opinion of mine.
Cigarettes also disappeared.
Oh yeah, cigarettes. That was a big one. I'm like, so how many people have died of lung cancer now? How many people are actually alive? Like,
well, they said cigarettes, so that means tobacco could still exist. So people probably
use... like chewing tobacco.
Maybe.
Or pipes. But it's just weird.
It's so weird. Like, imagine like the teens. Imagine the teens like, it's like, Dad, I'll do whatever I want. You know, just...
I can't imagine cigarettes not being a thing. It just...
I mean...
it boggles my mind.
I mean, the biggest one was at the end that really threw me off. The disappearance of Harry Potter.
Oh, yeah. Harry Potter was gone, I grabbed onto him so hard, I almost passed out. I couldn't breathe. I was so angry.
when
like,
they started
no.
talking about that in the film, at one point I'm like I'm looking at the character that said that. I'm like, please tell me the character knows what the reference is. And then they were like, who's Harry Potter? I'm like, oh no. And that's when I felt my hand getting squeezed. I'm like, yep, I should have not realized it. Because it's like they disappeared too. And I'm like to myself, like, okay, so just in general, some things in that reality just never came into existence.
Or just didn't become famous. I thought it was decent. It wasn't like the best movie I've ever seen, but there were a lot of humorous parts in it. There was a lot of good music in it and a lot of references to the Beatles. He kept bringing them up in everything he said and did, and I liked that. So it was a good movie. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of this film. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you next time. Bye.